doing?
How you doing?
Good. I'm blessed.
How's the defense coming along?
It's coming. We're carrying over from spring ball and continuing to develop some of the transfer portals and us actually really more the unity of, we understand the defense from spring ball, and then now it's really just putting it together where the guy to the right and the left of you were all kind of meshing together to make the scheme work.
Who are some of the guys who are emerging as potential playmakers right now?
Well, the guy that's really excited, I'm excited about is watching Gary and Keanu come back. They've been chomping at the bits in spring ball, and those guys have really flashed in what we thought the inside guys should look like. And then for the secondary, Key Lawrence is doing a great job. His leadership skills is stepping up, and you can see it carry over to the field as well as off the field in the meeting rooms. He's taking a leadership role there, and then they're holding like separate meetings by themselves. So they're really taking the initiative to grasp this scheme.
When it comes to Gary and Keanu, would you say they're 100%, and are they going to be able to take all the reps they normally would take, or are you going to be mixing some other guys in, and maybe that's a function of depth as well?
They can.
Yeah.
I think the way Coach Foster is, we want to make sure we can take care of our horses, so to speak. So they'll take reps here and there, just so they can mentally lock in. But the end goal for us is to make sure we get them to August 30th and they're full speed.
And when it comes to Gary, do you have a set plan of how many snaps you'd like to get him involved in a game?
Yeah, I do. I think throughout camp, though, we want to make sure that what I visualize as his rep count, he can actually withstand that. So, those guys have to have extra work in terms of cardio, just because I want to take some of the poundage off and some of the running off them from actually doing it on the field. So those guys have been a great job before and after. Him, Keanu, as well as Ciale is trying to get the cardio in. So if they can match and meet that part of it, then I think those guys should be. There won't be as much as Jay, because Jay had to carry a lot of load, but pretty close to it, I would say.
And as far as go ahead.
Yesterday, seemed a little bit unhappy with some of the interior defensive linemen. He came over and said something. What was making you unhappy, and did they kind of pick it up from there? What did you see from them?
Yeah, well, when we start that first drill and we get going again in terms of competition, I expect that the three interior guys to set the tone for the day. And they just didn't show up. They were still in warm-up mode or whatever it is. And, for us, we had a tendency to start that way as a team, let alone our defense. And so, I wanted them to take ownership of that. There's a responsibility. If you're going to call yourself leaders of this defense, there's a responsibility to it. So I blame them for us starting off bad. Eventually the practice became good and they did what they're supposed to do. But on play one, that's when I expect that.
You mentioned AJ Fuimano as somebody to watch. How's his progression been since?
Awesome. I think to be honest with you, with the three guys intact now, I think it took so much weight off of his shoulders. He's actually playing freely, more like what we saw when he was at Liberty High School. So he's not as much stress on him in terms of I have to make the play, but now he's working through his techniques and he's really coming along.
You brought in, there are a lot of transfers across the board, especially on defense with the turnover. What has been some of the more difficult aspects of trying to bring in more guys and get them, as you said, there are some guys who are really leaning into this, but what's been difficult about this transition?
Well, it hasn't been difficult in terms of getting the portals here. It's been really difficult, especially in Coach Mead's room, in trying to find that right combination, so to speak. And they've actually all met the expectation of what we thought they would do. So then it falls on me, and how many guys can I get on the field at the same time? So as we get going through camp, we'll do like we normally do. We'll get into a lot of exotics and we'll switch this and we'll switch that, just so that the guys are fighting what they're fighting for. There's some payoff at the end, that they will see the light at the end of the tunnel and get on the field.
Are you leaning more toward third linebacker versus a nickel this year, or one way or the other, or what are you?
It's about even now because of the depth that we brought in at the secondary. We don't have to lean so much into like what we did last year. We really had to manufacture things, and now we can actually stay with our base stuff and go out and play.
What are you seeing from the linebackers, and who's standing out?
Well, aside from John, I think Juju Walls is taking a huge step. Isaiah Chisholm has really found himself now. He's playing way faster, and you can tell like he's starting to smile a lot more. You saw him learning the package, and then now he's actually putting his best foot forward. Like his talent is really starting to show. And then the guy that we're all excited to see was Donnie Palat. Getting back on the field, and he's so athletic, so it's really exciting for us to watch.
And how does plot kind of factor into what you guys want to do? Because obviously you've got you've got quite a bit of I guess options there at linebacker.
Yeah, so for me, I'm racking my brain as we speak, because both the secondary and the linebacker crew has really put a decision making for me in terms of how many backers I can get in the field at the same time and how many DBs I can get on the field at the same time. So, but Donnie has really made a case for himself that somehow, some way, he needs to get on that field. So I got to do a better job in terms of just personnel and things like that.
One of the guys you brought in with a lot of speed is Roderick Pleasant.
Yes.
What have you seen out of him?
Getting the rust off to start with. It's always hard to get used to a package, and the guys that are ahead of him right now, they had a whole spring. So the stuff that we were trying to get through spring and get the rust off of them, Roderick is going through that at this moment, but he's progressing really, really well. He will be a big factor in what we do here.
Getting a guy like Kanye Clark healthy and back, kind of talk about him.
Yeah, well, Kanye and Cole, they're about the same, those two guys. They're so multiple. We can move them all over from corner to nickel to safety. They've actually been playing all parts of it. So it really helps us to move other people in other parts that maybe if they get in the game, we can shuffle those guys around. But Kanye being back, I mean, it's like two warriors with him and Cole out there.
It looks like you guys maybe signed a new guy, Jalen Hargrove.
Yep.
Is he gonna join the team soon?
Yes. He's actually getting himself in shape. We don't want to just throw him in the fire and then he gets hurt. So we're thankful that he got to join us as much as we can. I think we all understand how important the depth at defensive line play is. So the more people we got to bring in, the better off we are.
Is he here now?
He is here now.
Okay.
He is here now. Just going through the cardio part, making sure he can get going that way.
What's it like to see Coach Martin be able to coach his son? Have you seen some special moments there?
I think like most dads, I think he's probably harder on Cole than most, but I think that those guys are very similar in terms of the mindset. Cole wants all of it. He loves the fact that we can be hard on him, but then separate him from his dad. And then I think Coach Mead likes that as well, where he can be hard on Cole, but then it's not a father-son relationship. It's truly a coach-player relationship. So we're getting better that way.
And you brought in, go ahead.
You guys like Carson Kane,
Yep.
you lost to the NFL, some really productive guys.
Yep.
Do you see, and it's kind of hard to replicate that,
Yeah.
but is anyone doing a good job of trying to replace what they
Well, I think John, first off, he will be set up to do what Carson did already. Just a matter in belief and confidence. I think that's what Carson went through, and that's what John has to go through. He had a great offseason, so for him, just going and making plays will be his biggest challenge, knowing that he can do it, and it's all really set up for him.
You got two new arrivals since the summer, Anthony Jones and then Bennett.
Yeah.
What do you see out of those two, and are either one of those maybe more ahead of schedule than the other right now?
I think they're both about the same. Again, part of it is really unlearning to learn. There's so many different schemes that both of them have been a part of, coming from the Michigan area. But for us, they fit us perfectly. It's just a matter of them understanding where they fit in. There's some techniques and there's some scheme issues that are just a little bit different than where they're coming from, but they fit us perfectly, and they will be playing on Saturdays for sure.
Coach Foster was talking about the new kind of recruiting energy of the assistants. What have you seen? I mean, he said that guys like Coach Martin and Eddie Kwan were kind of having played for competition among themselves.
Absolutely.
What have you seen with the renewed energy of these new assistants helping the staff bring in guys?
It's been awesome. I mean, it's like the whole, who wants to win the knife set, right? Who's going to get that prize? And I think our coaching staff is so competitive that as a byproduct of it, we're starting to bring in guys that really fit our culture and then the talent-wise. So we're bringing in guys that I think we're thankful for, and now we're using them right now.
And you guys have had a schedule change this week with, shifting away from some morning practices to more in the afternoon. Was there a specific reason for that? Or?
Yeah, he's just testing the discipline. That's Coach Foss. He wants to change things back and forth and see how do we react, and then can we stay focused on the task at hand. He says practice here, let's get back and we stay focused. No, we're going to change it. We're going to practice in the morning. Let's stay focused here. So that's just Coach Foss. He's really testing our team and how disciplined can we be with everything.
Well, when you think about the defense, you have a pretty good idea in your mind of who the starters are going to be, or is it still pretty fluid across the board?
It's pretty fluid across the board. What I think I went into camp probably having a decent idea of who I think would start, and there are guys that are competing that really put in a good case for themselves. So that's a great problem to have, though, for us, to have multiple people battling for jobs.
I think, when it comes to outside expectations, I think you guys obviously surpassed and surprised people last year. What are your own internal expectations, and how much do you have to maybe try to raise the standard going into this year?
Yeah, well, I hope it's the same result. I hope we can surprise and surpass what everybody expected us to do. I mean, we're doing it again. We're going to replace all 11. I think our own expectations have a standard, and I expect to meet them. So if we do, then we should probably have the same result, and I think the same expectations or exceeding the expectations of everyone else.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.